We're back with the TwinSpires Jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully, and Nick Tammaro is filling in for Darren Sicali this time. I'm also happy to see you're not stuck in your car outside a coffee shop.
I still don't have a fancy TwinSpires background, but my backdrop is far better this time around. My Wi-Fi connection is better, and let's hope my opinions are better.
Very happy to hear it. We're going to talk Del Mar, Colonial Downs for the Arlington Million card on Sunday, and we'll look at Ellis Park as well. And Nick, I'll start things off with you. Tell me what your best bet of the week is and where you're going to play that.
Yeah, so looking forward to this best bet, actually. This is a horse that's going to run on Saturday at Del Mar. And, of course, I'll have expert picks for Saturday's Del Mar card. We're going to go early on in the program to race 3. This is going to be horse number 2, Tranche, who is a Adam Kitchingman trainee. So this is a horse that actually made a splash, I would say, to an extent when he broke his maiden last year. It came in the Futurity at Santa Anita, and he beat Miramati in doing so. Miramati was a highly regarded horse at that point. He's still a maiden. He's a horse that's taken a lot of money. He's actually run against winners a couple of times as well. But Tranche beat him that day and did so with a lot of early speed. So last time out, Tranche came back from a long layoff, ended up running into a really sharp field. Thornhouse was a horse that had shown some serious ability in the past. Yellow Brick also had run very well on numerous occasions for Dick Mandela. And I thought that Tranche needed the race. He got involved in a really strong pace. He tired a little bit. Now, I don't love the idea of taking a failed speed horse at Del Mar, given the track profile we've seen so far at this meet. But I think this is a horse that's going to make the lead. And if he does so, I could see him being very dangerous second off a layoff. I want to give him that opportunity to race his way back into shape. The other thing here was that, and I kind of went back and forth on who I was going to make my best bet of the day and my fade, and if they could even be in the same race, because I think the horse to bet against is the 6 For All Mankind. That's part of why I ended up landing on Tranche. I don't have morning line odds yet, but I would imagine that For All Mankind is going to be a relatively short price. This is a horse that's going to be bet on dirt off of turf races. And I like betting against these horses, even though the pedigree is heavily geared towards dirt, with Daisy Divine being a filly that was good on both turf and dirt. And this gelding being an Into Mischief, he should be able to run on virtually anything. But I think Tranche is an interesting play at a good price in race 3 on Saturday at Del Mar.
I like it, adding Lasix, and you mentioned kind of needed to start coming off a 9-month layoff in the first start this season. So I expect some improvement here as well. Now I'm going to switch things up, and I'm going to go ahead of James, give him some time to think about his best bet because I don't quite agree with him. So I'll let you think a little bit longer on it, and I will jump ahead to talk about Colonial Downs. I'm going number 7, Witty, at 4-1. This is race 8, the 5.5 furlong Van Cleef Stakes on the turf. And this drew a field of 12, a lot of early speed. So I'm looking for a late runner here. Now, the morning line favorite, Mischief Magic, also a late closer, but has not won since coming over to the U.S. 0 for 4. And I also feel like 6 furlongs, maybe a little bit better for that horse. 1 for 5 at today's distance. So I'm going to go with Witty to the inside, who has 3 wins and 3 seconds from 6 starts at 5.5 furlongs on the turf. Also going to have Avion Toledo, a 33% winner this meet, who's won all 4 mounts with Witty for his career. And trainer Elizabeth Merriman is a 36% winner in non-graded stakes. A small sample size, but when she shows up in non-graded stakes, does very well. So I'm backing Witty here in the Van Cleef Stakes.
All right. I like to hear that's a very competitive race. I've taken a look at it. I can see your point with Witty. Looks like he will get the pace to run at. My best bet's going to be in Secretariat Stakes, race 9 at Colonial Downs on Saturday. Number 1, Brilliant Birdie. Now, this is a 3-year-old colt trained by Cherie DeVoe. Started one time in February at Fairgrounds, and then came back from a freshening on the Thurby card at Derby Week and broke his maiden and did so in good fashion, where he basically got to the lead in deep stretch and pulled away late to win. Came back a month later in an entry-level allowance race on June 7th and took a step forward. I mean, definitely figure-wise, ran much better. I thought he won a little bit more, it was a little bit better turn of foot that afternoon. Won clear once again by more than a length. And then DeVoe stepped him right up into the stakes company in the American Derby. Brilliant Birdie rated off a pretty moderate pace that afternoon in mid-pack. And I just like the improved turn of foot he showed on the far turn to put himself in contention. And you can see he's already struck the lead by mid-stretch in the American Derby that day. I just think I love this profile of a progressing 3-year-old who each race just keeps on stepping up and running well. And while Brilliant Birdie is the 5-2 morning line favorite, I do think that Trickery, who's 3-1 second choice, he'll definitely compete for favoritism off of that Grade 1 Belmont Derby. They have one horse in common. 2 starts back, First World War beat Trickery in the Penn Mile, and then last time in the American Derby, Brilliant Birdie handled him pretty easily. So I just think Brilliant Birdie is going places for DeVoe, and I'm looking for a big effort once again in the Secretariat Stakes.
I'll go ahead and transition us to our fade of the week, because this is my fade of the week. Brilliant Birdie at 5-2, making his first start against Graded Stakes Company. And certainly you make a lot of good points here, James, coming off a career best effort as well in the American Derby on a 3-win streak. But I'm looking at these other runners. Trickery, who you mentioned, will probably take a lot of money, and in the previous starts didn't really get respected at the betting windows, has 4 wins, 2 placings by a neck in his last 6 starts. So I think maybe we will see him potentially the post-time favorite. But even I was looking at Fulminio, who was a best bet of mine a couple weeks ago in the Boston Stakes, won that race at a mile over soft turf, and won his previous start as well at a mile over soft turf. We're getting a lot of rain at Colonial. I don't think we're going to get firm turf, and Brilliant Birdie has only raced over firm turf. So I'm looking for him to maybe not do so well in his Graded Stakes debut. That's why I'm going to fade him here. I like Trickery. I like First World War, adding blinkers for the first time with Brendan Walsh, who we've seen do really well when he adds blinkers for the first time. Pretty mischievous in the Kentucky Oaks. That was the winning formula. So sorry, James, I can't back Brilliant Birdie here.
Now, we'll say we went against each other one time before, and you're right. You had Sierra Leone in the Risen Star way back in February, and I believe he was my fade that day. And so hopefully I'm looking to even the score on Saturday. I knew you'd be keen on Fulminio. Those are some good points. He's going to have to step up against better competition, but he definitely likes soft turf. He's shown an affinity for Colonial Downs, and you can make the case that he's getting better for Delacour.
James and I will be on location at Colonial this weekend, so it'll be fun to watch that race together and see who's right in this instance. But Nick, I don't know if you've looked at this race. I don't know if you want to give us a pick in this race, so I'll turn it over to you. Who is your fade of the week?
So my fade in there would have been Trickery. So it works out perfectly that we all see it a little bit differently, but a lot of fun there. So my fade is actually in the nightcap at Del Mar on Saturday. This is a horse that has had a devil of a time winning races, and I say that, of course, pun intended, because his name is not a sinner. This is a horse that I have seen now run. We've all seen run in the money in 6 consecutive starts without winning, and these are the types that you want to bet against. This horse is going to be a relatively solid favorite. She's shortening up to 5 furlongs. I feel like horses that generally want to make up a little bit of ground, even if they're stalking types, going to 5/8, they're just a little bit out-footed. So Not a Sinner is a horse that I wanted to take a swing against here, and one that I think will end up going off a relatively short-priced favorite, maybe not a huge favorite, but one who I think you'll create some value going against. I like Blister in the Sun in that field, who's going to be a decent price. That's number 4 for Phil D'Amato. This horse had a huge pace last out at Los Al and ended up tiring. Now goes back to the turf. And the lone prior turf try ran into Medoro, who turned out to be a really nice turf horse. So not only am I giving you a fade, I'm giving you a little bit of a play there in Blister in the Sun, as I think Not a Sinner, one that you want to definitely fade in the nightcap on Saturday.
I like the play 0 for 9 lifetime in this maiden special weight, picking up a new rider as well. And I like your pick in this race, second time on Lasix, and also second turf start. Well, James?
Yeah, a lot going for Blister in the Sun, no doubt.
James, what about you?
My fade's going to come in the Beverly D race 10 at Colonial on Sunday. It's going to be number 6, Mora. And listen, I really respected her last effort in the Diana. She ran well to be third in the Breeders' Cup Philly America Turf, 2 starts back behind Innsbruck and Warm Heart. And but one of the reasons I'm going to fade her in this spot is because she has shown a tendency to finish second or third quite often, doing so in 7 of her last 9 starts. And I don't think the mile and 3/16 distance. I mean, I think that mile and an eighth in the Diana really hit her between the eyes. She won the her previous graded win came in a 1.8 trip. And I think she's got 4 starts at the 3/16 distance, and she's got 0 wins and 0 seconds from those. So I'm going to try to beat Mora in the Beverly D. Now, there is a chance she is cross-entered to the Canadian International at Woodbine on Saturday. So we'll see which option Kevin Adder takes. But it's supposed to be sunny all day at Colonial Downs, so the turf will have some give to it, but hopefully it won't be a bog and won't be too bad. And he'll put Adder on a bus to Colonial, because she'll definitely add some star quality to the Beverly D field. So I'm going to try to beat her in the Beverly D Sunday.
This is a Breeders' Cup Win and You're In Challenge Series event as well. What do you think about Fev Rover here?
I think she's very dangerous. I mean, she ran really well there last year. And, that effort in the Nassau last time was a little bit disappointing. But I saw where Cassie felt like he brought her back too soon. And, she's rebounded from that effort and is doing great. So, I mean, to me, Fev Rover is in with a serious chance in there, obviously.
Well, before we move on to what else we're looking forward to this weekend, Darren's out, so I'll take over the promos and our TwinSpires tournaments real quickly. Starting off with our tournaments, we had a very great turnout our first week, so thank you to our players who participated, and we're always listening to feedback and trying to give you the best product. We have 2 more tournaments this Sunday, starting with the $300 Ellis Park Derby Challenge with cash up for grabs. And we also have the $1,000 Colonial Downs qualifier. You can play for a chance to win an entry to the BCBC, the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, and 2 seats to the NHC, also available for this tournament. But if you don't want to play tournaments, we have promos as well. We have our $10 money back offer at Colonial Downs for the Arlington Million card on Sunday. If your horse finishes second or third in all eligible races, you get up to $10 back on your first win bet in each race. And then Sunday, our $2,500 Ellis Park leaderboard, and you can play for a chance to split a share of a $2,500 prize pool. Head to TwinSpires.com or the app to see the T's and C's for that promo. And of course, the TwinSpires tournament tab at TwinSpires.com if you want to enter those tournaments as well. Nick, I'll turn it back over to you. Let's talk some Del Mar again. So what are you looking forward to this weekend?
Yeah, so one of 2 graded stakes on Saturday's card is the Sorrento. It goes as the 5th, has just a field of 5. But I wanted to talk about this a little. It's always fun to talk about 2-year-olds, never too early to do so. And this field of 5 is made up of 5 horses that are collectively, they've won all but 1 race. And what they have in common is that they've all won every single one of those races on the front end. One of them that we're going to see in just a moment was Vodka with a Twist, who won the debutante at Churchill on closing day of the spring meet. She did so on the front end with Flavian Pratt on board. Now gets Mike Smith as she shifts back out west for trainer Phil D'Amato, making her first start actually outside of the state of Kentucky. She was privately purchased out of her second career start, which was a win, came back, of course, and won that stake race. White Sands, who's just to her outside, is a daughter of Into Mischief, who's a half to Jackie's Warrior, of course, the decorated and super talented sprinter that we saw. Wesley Ward discussed entering this horse in a couple of different places. He originally mentioned the Sorrento after she won at Prairie Meadows last time out, but he actually entered her in the Adirondack at Saratoga last week and scratched her so that she could go here. She draws nicely on the outside in a field of 5 and looks quite formidable. It's a Bob Baffert pair on the inside, of course, that are going to get a lot of wagering attention. I'd say more so the one Nooney, who was a $1.8 million purchase, a daughter of Win Win Win, who posted one of the most impressive OBS sale workouts I've ever seen. Now, I've never bought a racehorse at an auction, but I can tell you I've watched enough of those to know when they look good enough. And she did, and she looked good on the racetrack as well. So part of the reason why she went for a whopping 3,600 times, I should say, her sire stud fee. So we'll see if Nooney ends up being as successful. I think she definitely could be. She's just going to take a lot of heat from the inside. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this race, was because not only do some of these fillies look very promising, but they're all speed horses. So something has to give. And I think somebody that ends up being able to make a little bit of a run from off the pace is going to have a pretty big edge in the Sorrento.
Yeah, this is such a tough race. Every single horse here has one gate to wire. I mean, Nooney has the top class rating on debut and a 91% speed figure. But when you have all of these early pace setter types, I have no idea. I have no idea who to back here. I'd probably lean Nooney as well, but could be
Yeah,
West.
that's exciting.
It's going to be exceptionally tough. I can't really figure out exactly what I'm going to do yet, but it's going to be figuring out which speed horse I think can rate.
I'm also looking forward to that yellow ribbon there on Saturday. Or I'm thinking about trying to beat Anisette, but I don't know who to do it with yet. So I got to take
that was my issue so far. She was almost my fade, but I couldn't figure out who the alternative was.
Darren's not going to be carrying that.
I know. She hadn't come back like I thought she would, and I just don't think she's moved forward enough. But we'll find out Saturday. My what else is going to surround? I'm going to mention two things. First off, I want to mention Brian Hernandez Jr. He won the Oaks and the Derby this year, swept both races, first to do it since like the 1950s. And he was named the Mike Venezia Award winner yesterday. This year's recipient, the Mike Venezia Memorial Award, recognizes extraordinary sportsmanship and citizenship that was personified by Mike Venezia, who died from his injuries in a spill in 1988 in New York. And just want to give a shout out to Brian Hernandez, just having a career best year. He's a great guy, and I know that that'll be a great ceremony. They're going to honor him on August 23rd, the day before the Travers, that Friday afternoon. And then I also want to mention an exciting maiden race at Saratoga on Sunday. It's race number 6. This race, the morning line favorite in here is first-time starter for Chad Brown, the 4-horse trading strategy. You got another horse in here for Brown, who's 9-2, the 8, a first-time starter by Curlin. But I want to focus on number 6, Quick Kick. And this is a daughter of McKenzie. And I read a bunch of positive stories on McKenzie early in the year. His weanlings and yearlings and even his 2-year-olds in training from his first crop this season were all well received, and I heard a lot of positive reports. And then April came, had a bunch of maiden races at Keeneland, a bunch of maiden races at Churchill Downs in May and June and elsewhere across the country. And I hardly even saw him at any McKenzie's running, and certainly saw no winners. But on July 27th, Chad Brown sent out a colt named Chancer McPatrick at Saratoga, who I thought was extremely impressive and is going to be a contender in the Grade 1 hopeful at the end of the meet. And then the following day, Tim Yakteen sent out a colt, Mackenzie Street, who was super impressive as well at Del Mar and beat this horse Emerald Bay that was a huge buzz on, and he ran non-threatening second at odds on. So, Mackenzie now has 3 winners. Sometimes we'll see these wins come in a bunch, and this Quick Kick is out of Grade 3 sprint winner Graham 6, who is the dam of 10 foals to start. 9 of them are winners. She's produced 3 stakes winners, including graded stakes sprint winners, and 4 2-year-old winners. So he's bred to be precocious. 5-furlong bullet work at Churchill Downs in early July. Came to Saratoga, worked a half mile, third fastest of 1:04, and then he just lit up the track last Sunday with another 5-furlong bullet for Tom Amos, who already has a 2-year-old winner at Kamichi Cat at Saratoga. So I'm excited to see this Quick Kick listed at 6-1 with Dylan Davis run on Sunday at Saratoga.
Chancer McPatrick, Nick, you talked about that horse. I think it was last week on the roundtable.
Sure did, yeah. Chancer McPatrick, the first McKenzie winner, and like James said, followed up by another one out west. And this looks like a fun race. Of course, you brought up Graham 6, and Tom Amos trained Graham 6 too. For him to trade him going in, but yeah, that's a precocious pedigree, all right, and a hefty purchase price for the winner, the morning line favorite trading strategy. You don't see Klarovich necessarily go to $500,000 all that often. Value investor himself behind the operation there.
James, real quick, I wanted to mention Brian Hernandez, of course, at Ellis, was doing very well on Sunday, won the Pucker Up Stakes with Waves of Mischief, and also won another stakes on the card. Had a chance to talk to him, was doing very well, and I saw he's the rider on Brilliant Birdie, so that's fun.
Yeah, he's going to be at Colonial. He's riding Brilliant Birdie on Sunday, and he's also he's got some mounts as well at Ellis Park this weekend. So, he comes up to Saratoga sometimes. He'll ship out to ride stakes days, but he's basically based at Ellis for the summer.
Taking it back to Ellis, on Sunday, we have the Ellis Park Derby and a couple of other non-graded stakes, and we'll see some really good runners show up at Ellis on Sunday. Tarifa's one of them. Points leader in the Road to the Kentucky Oaks ended up finishing 9th in that race, and now cutting back to 7 furlongs for the Audubon Oaks. Now, a lot of people like this angle of betting against horses making their first start off their Oaks or Derby start, and I feel like Tarifa, especially being a Brad Cox runner, here's some stable footage from the fairgrounds, but with Brad Cox, he's always pulling in money from bettors, and Tarifa, of course, a very good horse, but heading back to 7 furlongs for the first time in 5 starts, and I think could be a chance to play against. You have some really good sprinters in this field. Number 2, Fibber, just won at Churchill last out, first start for Chris Hartman, had a career best figure. And then you also have Minx Palace, who's looked very sharp, an unbeaten runner for Steve Asmussen as well. So might be a good play against here. Cutting back to that sprint distance for the first time in a while. We'll also see Saudi Crown on Sunday at Ellis, who, of course, won the Pennsylvania Derby and the Grade 3 Louisiana, but had been racing overseas in Dubai, coming back to the U.S. and going to cut back to a mile. So kind of fun when we get to see these horses try something different for the first time in a little while. And it also makes the betting a little interesting. Maybe they won't be so clear of a winner, but I do think Saudi Crown will get the early lead in this race for sure in the Cowboy Jones Stakes.
Yeah, Saudi Crown almost stole the Saudi Crown or the Saudi Cup on the lead. Got run down late, finished 3rd there, but he wound up in the Breeders' Cup Classic last year after winning the Pennsylvania Derby. But coming back in this mile stake, I could see him aiming for the dirt mile this fall because that 10 furlong distance is too far for him.
How about the Ellis Racing Office getting 11 horses to run against him? Those are the real MVPs. I don't know how many horsemen got surprised when they saw the overnight, but I saw that the other day when I looked. I knew there were some stakes at Ellis. I was like, holy cow! I mean, that's incredible, and good horses too. I mean, it's a solid and competitive field. I think he'll be a very short price favorite, but it's fun to have him back. And look, if the version of him that we saw run in Saudi shows up, then he'll be a very interesting horse for the dirt mile later in the year.
We'll also see Houday at Ellis. Big fan of that horse myself. And James, I don't know if you like the horse, but of course the name, being a Bengals fan.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, Houday, and I'm still waiting. I never knew what happened to Joe Shiesty. I need to go look him up after the show.
Yeah. Didn't win.
They named him after Burrow too. Well, Houday is just named after the Bengals. Sorry.
Right. All right. Well, that's all the time we have today for the TwinSpires Jury. Thank you again, Nick, for joining us. We'll be back next Thursday. Well, I won't, but probably the both of you will be here next Thursday. And of course, we'll be on the Racing Roundtable on Tuesday to recap all the stakes action from Arlington Million and Del Mar as well. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Nick.
You bet, absolutely. Ashley.